Greetings from the UNCG Speaking Center. In this video, we're going to be answering the question, how should your roundtable dialogue flow? We will discuss the parts of the group dialogue. The dialogue will happen in 3 rounds. The first round will consist of the introduction and the perspectives and main points from both sides of the issue. The moderator will open the dialogue with the introduction. It will then flow to speaker 1, who will present the perspectives from one side of the topic. We'll then move to speaker 2, who will present perspectives from the second side of the topic. Speaker 3 will be coming back to the first side or perspective. And speaker 2 will close out by discussing, once again, the second side of the topic. So to summarize, speakers 1 and 3 are partners on the same side of the issue, and speaker 2 and 4 are partners on the other side of the issue. Now let's move on to looking a little more in depth what is going to occur in round 1. Starting with the moderator, who is going to be responsible for the introduction, all transitions, and the conclusion of the dialogue. Beginning with the introduction, the moderator is going to include 5 key elements in the introduction, starting with the attention-getting device. This is to hook the audience in and to make them motivated and interested in paying attention and listening to what the panel has to say. The second is the panel credibility, in which the moderator will state what the panel has done in order to become credible or authoritative on this particular subject. For example, conducting research. The third portion in the introduction will be the audience relation and rationale. This is where you set up why this dialogue is important. What conversations or communication is happening about this topic in the world, and basically just prove to us that this is something that needs to be talked about. The audience relation piece is going to show this audience that you are presenting to how it specifically relates to them and why they should care. The next step is to present the thesis and an overview of the key content. The thesis is going to establish what the purpose of the dialogue is. For example, you might say, in this presentation, we will be discussing whether or not universal health care should be implemented in the United States. That is an example of a thesis statement. But you will also include an overview of key content, which may include background information, definitions of concepts that we may need to know, and other relevant information that will make it easier for us to understand as an audience what will be occurring and being discussed in the body of the dialogue. The last step is the preview of the discussion format. This should be relatively brief, and you will simply outline for the audience what will be happening over the course of the dialogue. For example, during this presentation, we will be going in 3 rounds. The first round will be an offering from both sides, with this person and this person on the pro side and this person and that person on the con side. And then we will move to round 2, in which we will have our panelists answering critical questions. And then finally, there will be a class-wide discussion portion. So that is an example of the preview and all of the parts of the introduction that the moderator will include. As a side note, because the moderator is also responsible for researching and finding sources and citing them within the dialogue, the most likely places for those to be cited may be in the attention-getting device, depending on what type you use, in the rationale piece, where you're proving to us that this is a topic that needs to be discussed, and in the overview of key content. So now moving on to speakers 1 and 2, these speakers are going to be discussing setting up the main perspectives of the side that they are sharing about. So each speaker 1 and 2, is going to present 2 main points. Each main point starts with a claim you are making. In essence, your claim is, my perspective is right because. And then you support the claim that you're making within each main point. So you want a transition also between main point 1 and main point 2, so that we know when you're moving from your first claim to your second. And both do need to be supported. So once speaker 1 and speaker 2 have both presented their 2 main points each, you will then move to speakers 3 and 4. Their role is slightly different in that their first main point is going to be a claim that is a response to the first speaker on the other side. So speaker 3, their main point 1, is going to be a response to speaker 2, who was on the other side of the topic. And speaker 4, their first main point is going to be in response to speaker 1. The second main point from speakers 3 and 4 can either be a new claim or another response to the other side. And again, in both cases, you do need to provide support to prove the claim that you're making. Then we move back to the moderator, who will be transitioning between round 1 and round 2. But just as a reminder, the moderator should be providing transitions between each speaker. Each speaker will have transitions between their own main points, but the moderator helps us move between one speaker to the next. In the transition from round 1 to round 2, the moderator will briefly recap the main points that were heard in the first round and then preview the panelist question and answer section. Then we move to round 2. This is where we will be asking and answering critical questions from both sides and conclude the panel portion of the dialogue. In this round, the moderator is going to serve as the facilitator, a neutral party to the question and answer section. Once again, they will be helping us move between those who are asking and answering questions. So speaker 1, 2, 3, and 4 will all need to answer a critical question about their perspective. You can handle this in multiple ways. You may choose to have the moderator ask all the questions of each speaker, and then, of course, each speaker will respond. The next option is to have sides pair. So speaker 1 and 2 could ask and answer questions to each other, and speaker 3 and 4 could pair to ask and answer each other's questions. You could also do it in a round-robin fashion, meaning speaker 1 could ask speaker 2, who could ask speaker 3, who would ask speaker 4, who would ask speaker 1. So there's a number of ways that you could handle this. Now, your instructor may have a particular way that they would like for you to handle this section, so be sure that you are checking the instructions and making sure that you do this in the way that the instructor expects. After the Q&A portion with each speaker, you will move to the concluding portion. The moderator will facilitate this by signaling that it is time to close. They will review the main perspectives that have been offered during the dialogue. You will thank the panel and the audience for their time and listening, and then wrap up with a memorable statement to tie all of the loose ends up and put in a nice neat bow the entire dialogue. Depending on how your instructor has set it up, you may invite your classmates to then ask questions of the panel. This may happen in a live format in which the audience can ask the panel questions in real time, or it could happen in a discussion board in which classmates will be asking and answering questions in a discussion board format within Canvas. Be sure that you know ahead of time which one of these options, if any, are expected. If this portion is going to be included, the moderator should open this up to the audience, to the class discussion. Thank you for listening to this video about the parts of the group roundtable dialogue.